The Peacock the Crane. A peacock, puffed up with vanity, met a crane one day, and to impress him, spread his gorgeous tail in the sun.
"Look," he said, "what have you to compare with this?"
"I'm dressed in all the glory of the rainbow, while your feathers are gray as dust."
The crane spread his broad wings and flew up toward the sun.
"Follow me if you can," he said, but the peacock stood where he was among the birds of the barnyard, while the crane soared in freedom far up into the blue sky.
The useful is of much more importance and value than the ornamental.
Oak and the Rest. A giant oak stood near a brook in which grew some slender wreaths. When the wind blew, the great oak stood proudly upright, with his slender arms uplifted to the sky.
But the reeds bowed low in the wind and sang a sad and mournful song. "You have risen the complaint," said the oak.
"The slightest breeze that ruffles the surface of the water makes you bow your head, while the mattock stands upright and firm before the howling tempest."
"Do not worry about us," replied the reeds. "The winds do not harm us. We bow before them, and so we do not break."
You in all your pride and strength have so far resisted their blows, but the end is coming.
As the reed spoke, a great hurricane rushed out of the north. The oak stood proudly and fought against the storm, while the yielding reeds both blowed.
The wind redoubled in fury, and all at once the great tree fell, torn up by the roots, and lay among the beating rats. Better to yield when it is folly to resist, than to resist boldly and destroy it.
The Wind and the Sun, an Aesop's Fable. There was once an argument between the wind and the sun about who was stronger than the other. They argued for a long time, but neither of them emerged the winner. It wasn't too long before they spotted a man walking on the road. Looking at the man wearing a coat, an idea struck them both. They challenged each other that the one who succeeded in removing the coat from the man's back was the strongest. The wind volunteered to try first. It began to blow hard, raising gusts of air and making it harder for the man to take a step further.
But the man clutched his coat tight around him and resumed walking with great difficulty. The wind continued blowing harder and harder, but the man held on to his coat tighter and tighter, and continued his journey forward. Finally, the wind was exhausted and gave up. His effort had been futile. It was now the turn of the sun. He looked at the man and began to gently shine upon the path the man was walking on. The man looked up at the sky, surprised at the change in weather.
The sun did not spend much energy, neither did he apply any effort. He just continued shining upon the man's head gently. Soon the man was huffing and puffing and sweating profusely. Unable to bear the rising heat, the man finally took off his coat and headed to a nearby tree to rest for a while under its shade. Moral: sometimes gentle precision is mightier than the strongest force.
The two goats. Once there were two goats. The goats were friends. They played joyfully in the sun. The goats lived in the mountains. One day the two goats woke up to a fallen tree.
The tree fell and made a bridge connecting two mountains. But the tree was not safe. The tree was small. Even a baby goat could not walk on it safely. But the two goats were large goats.
The goats said that the tree was too small for two large goats, but they did not take turns. "I am not scared. I will walk on the tree first," said one goat. The other goat wanted to be first and said, "No, stay on your side. I will walk on the tree first."
But they both wanted to walk first. One goat set her foot on the tree. Second goody two, three. Held two goats. It trembled familiarly, heavy goats.
Creak! The tree creaked loudly. The goats were very nervous, but they did not stop. In the middle, the two goats met face to face. "Move, you are blocking the way," said one. "No, you are in the way,"
shouted the other. They were busy yelling when they heard creak. The tree cracked. Then the goats fell with the tree.
It is better to yield than to come to misfortune through stubbornness.
The lark and the young ones.
A lark made her nest in a field of young wheat. As the days passed, the wheat stalks grew tall, and the young birds too grew in strength.
Then, one day, when the ripe golden grain waved in the breeze, the farmer and his son came into the field.
"This wheat is now ready for reaping," said the farmer. "We must call in our neighbors and friends to help us harvest it."
The young larks in their nest close by were much frightened, for they knew they would be in great danger if they did not leave the nest before reapers came.
When the mother lark returned with food for them, they told her what they had heard.
"Do not be frightened, children," said the mother lark. "The farmer said he would call in his neighbors and friends. to help him do his work. This wheat will not be reaped for a while yet.
A few days later, the wheat was so ripe that when the wind shook the stalks, a hail of wheat grains came rustling down on the young larks' heads.
If this wheat is not harvested at once, said the farmer, we shall lose half the crop. We cannot wait any longer for help from our friends. Tomorrow we must set to work ourselves.
When the young larks told the mother what they had heard that day, she said,
Then we must be off at once. When a man decides to do his own work and not depend on anyone else, then you may be sure there will be no more delay.
There was much fluttering and trying out of wings that afternoon, and the sunrise next day, when the farmer and his son cut down the grain, they found an empty nest.
Self-help is the best help.
The Fox and the Crow.
Once upon a time a crow was perched a branch, holding a piece of cheese in his beak. A fox looked up and saw him. His tummy rumbled. He thought to himself, I'd love a nice bit of cheese.
Now the crafty fox, who could smell that delicious cheese, walked up to the tree. He sang a snaky voice. Good day to you, Mr. Crow. How well you look today. I have never seen such a silky set of feathers, and what a beautiful color, so luminous and dark.
If all the animals in the wood hadn't said that you have a terrible voice, I would have called you the most beautiful and graceful of all the birds in the wood. But it can't be true what they say. I'm sure that your voice must be as good as your looks. Oh, if only I could hear it.
The crow flirted to hear such kind words couldn't resist. The desire to show off his voice, he opened his beak, and that very moment the cheese fell out.
Thank you, the fox said and quickly grabbed the cheese. That's just what I wanted in the future if somebody flatters you. Think hard before you trust them.
The flatterer lives at the expense of those who will listen to him.
The Eagle and the Beetle. A beetle once begged the eagle to spare a hare, which had run to her for protection. But the eagle pounced upon her prey, the sweep of her great wings tumbling the beetle a dozen feet away. Furious at the disrespect shown her, the beetle flew to the eagle's nest and rolled out the eggs. No one did she spare. The eagle's grief and anger knew no bounds, but who had done the cruel deed she did not know.
Next year, the eagle built her nest far up on Mountain Crag, but the beetle found it and again destroyed the eggs. In despair, the eagle now implored great Jupiter to let her place her eggs in his lap. There none would dare harm them, but the beetle buzzed about Jupiter's head and made him rise to drive her away, and the eggs rolled from his lap.
Now the beetle told the reason for her action, and Jupiter had to acknowledge the justice of her cause. And they say that ever after, while the eagle's eggs lie in the nest in spring, the beetle still sleeps in the ground, for so Jupiter commanded. Even the weakest may find means to avenge a wrong.
The goose that laid the golden egg. A man and his wife owned a very special goose. Every day, the goose would lay a golden egg, which made the couple very rich. Just think, said the man's wife, if we could have all the golden eggs that are inside the goose, we could be richer much faster. You're right, said her husband. We wouldn't have to wait for the goose to lay her egg every day. So, the couple killed the goose and cut her open, only to find out she was just like every other goose. She had no golden eggs inside of her at all, and they had no more golden eggs. Too much greed results in nothing.
The Lion and the Mouse.
A lion lay asleep in the forest, his great head resting on his paws. A timid little mouse came upon him unexpectedly, and in her fright and haste to get away, ran across the lion's nose, roused from his nap. The lion laid his huge paw angrily on the tiny creatures to kill her.
Spare me, begged the poor mouse. Please let me go, and someday I will surely repay you. The lion was much amused to think that a mouse could ever help him, but he was generous and finally let the mouse go.
Some days later, while seeking prey in the forest, the lion was caught in the toils of a hunter unable to free himself. He fled the forest with his angry roaring. The mouse knew the voice and quickly found the lion strailing in the net.
Running to one of the great ropes that bound him, she gnawed it until it parted, and soon the lion was free. You laughed when I said I would trap you, said the mouse. Now you see that even a mouse can have a lion.
A kindness is never wasted.
The fox and the stork. A very long time ago, fox and stork were good friends. One day the fox invited the stork to his house to have a lunch together.
When the stork arrived at the fox's house, the table was set for lunch. There were 2 bowls of soup. The fox started eating, but the stork couldn't even taste his soup because his back was so long and the plate was too shallow.
Why aren't you eating? Don't you like my soup? The fox asked his guts. It is good. I guess I am not very hungry. The stork said. He left very hungry and angry.
Soon the stork invited the fox to his home to have dinner. When the fox arrived, he sat at the table with and the 2 tall jugs of soup were waiting for them.
What's the problem, Fox? Why aren't you eating? Don't you like my soup? The star asked. But the fox didn't reply. He was angry that the stork served him soup in such a narrow jug that he couldn't get his mouth in. From that day on, the fox and the stork have never been friends again.
Do not play tricks on your neighbors unless you can stand the same treatment yourself. The Mother and the Wolf.
Early one morning, a hungry wolf was prowling around a cottage at the end of a village when he heard the child crying in the house. Then he heard the mother's voice say, "Hush, child, hush! Stop your crying, or I will give you the wolf." Surprised but delighted at the prospect of so delicious a meal, the wolf settled down under an open window, expecting every moment to have the child handed out to him. But though the little one continued to fret, the wolf waited all day in vain. When toward nightfall he heard the mother's voice again as she sat down near the window to sing and rock her baby to sleep. "There, child, there! The wolf shall not get you. No, no! Daddy is watching and Daddy will kill him if he should come near." Just then the father came within sight of the home, and the wolf was barely able to save himself from the dogs by a clever bit of running. Do not believe everything you hear.
The wolves and the sheep. A pack of wolves lurked near the sheep pasture.
But the dogs kept them all at a respectful distance, and the sheep grazed in perfect safety.
"Why is there always hostility between us?" they said. If it were not for those dogs who are always
stirring up trouble, I'm sure we should get along beautifully.
Send them away, and you will see what good friends we shall become.
The sheep were easily fooled. They persuaded the dogs to go away. And that very evening the wolves had the grandest feast of their life.
Do not give up friends for foes.